Hello, everybody, and welcome to Horizon Overwatch. We have a very, very special presentation for you today. We're doing the Horizon Open Cup. So what you're going to be seeing today is a 8-team tournament to get to the grand finale prize of being the Season 0 Horizon Cup winner. I am Argoner, and as always, with me is my partner in casting. We got Dancer on the line, too.
How's it going, everyone? I'm so excited. Like Ark said, this is our season 0. Very, very bare bones, very similar to sort of the preseason that we saw in Overwatch League. Horizon's trying to do bigger things with the bigger tournaments, expand. I think everyone's really excited. Everyone in the Discord, everyone in the community, especially us as casters, really excited to see more competitive and bigger things. And this is sort of the start of it. This is our trial sequence. We'll see how this goes, but so far it's going to be exciting, I think.
And as always in the NA scrims, we're going to start the game with a pause, which actually will give us time to get you caught up on what's going on here. So we have Team Enlightened is the attacking team in the red here, and they're going to be going up against Team BADJR. Seems like they had a little bit of a connectivity issue. That's fine. Hopefully that will get sorted up soon. Will give us an idea, or at the very least a little bit of a window into what Enlightened is thinking about doing here. We see Ana. Now, before I look at anybody else on the team, I'm always happy to see an Ana. I think she's pretty good here. I think it's a little bit tough to get good sight lines on this first point. You have a tight choke, so you can't really always heal the person you want to heal, especially if your team's pushing in fast. But even if your team pushes in and gets to the point, you have that giant pillar there. There's a lot of cover, granted, but it also makes the sight lines a little bit tougher for Ana. So I'm curious what we're going to see here. Definitely want to try to get nano boosts fast, I would guess. I'm hoping to see a very aggressive Reinhardt and Zarya. What are you looking for, Dancer?
I'm a little bit confused. We're changing it up here, I guess, moving to Horizon Lunar.
They're gonna get it. They're gonna get it fixed.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I got scared there. I thought they were throwing us under the bus a little bit. I like what you were saying about that Ana, especially the attack Ana. It feels like you don't really have a usable high ground on attack Ana. Like you said, those sight lines are really going to be misconstrued by that tower that sort of guards the first point. So it's really going to be a unique use of it. This is the first kind of bigger tournament, or I guess it's not a bigger tournament, but this is the first time that we're going to see a more organized tournament using the Brigitte. So I think the idea of using a Brigitte Ana comp is you have a little bit of that Brigitte sustain, the small heals that aren't going to come in clutch, but are just going to keep everyone topped up. And she has the peels to keep Ana alive. So I think this is a combo we might start to see a little bit more often, especially with the sleep dart stun. You're just going to have a lot to deal with any backline threats. But other than that, nothing too unique, nothing too new. I wouldn't say it's anything too special. Typically, you're going to want to run in Moira with a tank-heavy comp. Moira is just a lot better at healing everyone at the same time. Basically does the same amount of healing as Ana, but does it to everybody.
Yeah, and that's what I really like on Eichenwalde, especially. If you want to take this point, there's a couple ways you can do it. What I find generally works the best is just unbridled aggression, right? You want to get to choke. You typically want to go through left room where the mini is, and then just go straight to point. The goal there is if you're going to be pushing a lot of tanks onto the point, you want to have an extended fight, which the Ana and the Brigitte can really help with. You get the Ana nade with the Brigitte passive healing that she does every time she picks up damage on an enemy. It's going to give you a lot of life, and hopefully that's what we're going to see here. I don't want to see a lot of stationary positioning at the choke for Team Enlightened. They really need to be moving fast here. Let's see what they do.
It's going to be so much trouble, too, with the Junkrat and a Roadhog, plus Orisa pull, kind of just pulling them back and forth into the choke over and over. Like you said, this is got to be a fast-moving comp, and it looks like Enlightened heard your cries. They're moving so fast onto the point, trying to build some space for themselves.
They are moving very fast onto the point. First pick coming in for BADJR. He's getting the kill on the Ana. That's pretty much going to kill the entire fight here, because without that Ana, your Brigitte's not going to be able to keep anybody up for, longer than a couple of seconds. She does have that, 150 burst heal, but unfortunately that's on a cooldown, so she can't really win any fight. They did have a small chance, maybe if they can get a quick pick, if Team Enlightened can get in there and get a quick pick, but they were not able to do so. So it's going to be a reset here, and I think we're seeing the first kind of hurdle here, so I want to see how Team Enlightened. It doesn't look like they're going to switch anything here. I do want to see if they go with that same strat again, just staying a little bit close together, because we're not picking your Ana that easily in the beginning of the fight is not what you want to see.
And it's going to be so rough because they have Junkrat and Pharah. All these grenades do more than half of every single 200 HP target's health. So getting hit by basically anything here puts you at a massive disadvantage. You have to take time to heal up. We already see the swap off onto the pharmacy. Very popular in Overwatch League, but you gotta win these duels here.
I'm unlucky. Toxic's able to get the pulse bomb off on the Moira as soon as she popped her ult, so she's not going to get any value there. Rez is coming in, bringing the Moira back up. She doesn't have any ult. It looks like teams are getting picks back and forth. Very hard to see who's going to be able to pull out here. Might be BADJR pulling it through with that ultimate. Whole Hog coming in, doing as much damage as possible, trying to keep everybody off the point. With the air shot is Moonblue.
And Moonblue's already killed 3 supports here. He has it out for them. He got the Moira, they got the Rez, they killed Mercy, and then got the Moira again. So, I mean, the sustained fight should have been in Enlightened's favor here, but since it's extended so long, it looks like they've been able to get the respawns in, and it's really anybody's game now.
Very smart Barrage there, taking out Salt, who had gotten put into the corner, stayed alive for a long time. It's not really going to help you when the Junkrat comes in and gets a 2K, including the Mercy. And then, of course, Duke walking in, getting the final 2 kills, putting the exclamation point on the end of that push. So this is going to be a moment for Enlightened to slow down, probably rethink what they're doing here. They've wasted so far over 2.5 minutes, coming up on 3 minutes, have not even gotten a tick. It's going to be very difficult at this point since all of the ultimates seem to be coming in the way of Team BADJR. They have the Roadhog ultimate coming online. They have Moira ultimate coming online. It's going to be a very strong push here. Moira ultimate comes out first, trying to keep the team alive. Not something like happening because the Moira is keeping everybody up. So much HPS being dealt out right now, so nobody's really getting a chance to die unless you're a Tracer who kills herself. I think she jumped off the edge, maybe accidentally blinked off the edge. BADJR getting the next kill. Looks like this might be another fight coming in for Team Enlightened.
And the focus fires.
Team BADJR.
The focus fire is looking a little bit rough here. We saw Moonblue at the beginning. Every single kill Moonblue has gotten has been a double rocket. I mean, he's been hitting them so often, but it's just not a very effective comp. You don't want to rely on it, especially if you're running Pharmacy. There's no point in running that because the damage boost doesn't do anything. 2 rockets kills a target whether you have Mercy on you or whether you don't. So it's not just a very efficient comp the way they're running this. You need something to follow up this Pharah damage because he is consistently getting these big rockets.
Talk about it. Pharah damage, getting a 2K there, first unboosted, getting the barrage kill onto the Orisa. This might be exactly what Enlightened need to open up this point. I want to see an aggressive beat here. I feel like they're losing fights that last too long. You get the beat from your Lucio. You might be able to take this in overtime. It doesn't seem like that they need it, though. They were able to get those kills. That is not what we saw in the past few rounds. Very smart play, not, wasting too many resources there, but I really would have loved to have seen probably a faster attack, because now we're at a point where, yes, Enlightened capped the point, but they only have 2.5 minutes to get all the way through streets and castle phase here. Yes, it can be done, but essentially you can't be stopped once, because then you're going to get into the problem of being back into an overtime situation when you're pushing the payload, especially if you're just getting to bridge. By the time it's overtime, very difficult unless you're snowballing the enemy team into oblivion at that point. Moonblue is 100% putting his team on his back. He's been pumping out by far the most damage, confirming the most kills, and he has not been answered this whole time. I don't know that the enemy team's Pharmacy is going to be putting in enough damage to stop Moonblue from poking.
We see the swap onto Widow. I kind of like this. Like I said, we're not getting any follow-up on Pharah damage. So if you have 2 threats that are getting the insta-kills, that actually might work out for your team really well. The problem with Focus Fire is just like, if you're not dealing damage fast enough in a short amount of time, you're really losing value out of your DPS. So if your Pharah's hitting the double shots, it's not a big deal to switch onto Widow and rely on 2 sources of burst damage. So I actually am liking this. It feels like it's a good solution to the lack of Focus Fire on Enlightened side.
And a Chronicle stayed alive through Moira ult, and the enemy team's Roadhog in her face does not go down. That is a very frustrating feeling. You have to remember with Moira ult, she is doing a self-heal during the entire thing. So yes, you can do damage, but you got to make sure you get in there and get that one-shot kill. If you're not able to do that, she can heal back up, all the meanwhile keeping your team up as well. That looks like a little bit of a feed coming in from that. I really do expect Winston to be dying very soon. He went after the Mercy, but he was not able to get the pick very fast. Not seeing him in the kill feed, smartly pulled back out there. So it looks like at this time we're seeing a bit of a reset here. Everybody's getting a chance to get some breathing room. Not really BADJR has anything to say about it. Did use his ult there. Not sure if I liked it. Even if you get a couple of kills, you're killing them at their spawn. You are buying a considerable amount of time, but now you don't have Monkey ult for the, I'm sorry, Scientist ult for this next fight. So if they get a strong fight, if Enlightened is able to pull through, get a team wipe here, and then maintain their ultimates all the way up until, you know, they get to the next point, it's very possible that they could win this point in overtime. With a wonderful shot. That is exactly what was needed from Toxic there. So Enlightened gets the pick onto the enemy fire. That's so huge. Moonblue was Duke was essentially being uncontested there. Had ult coming online. Toxic not letting that happen, getting the kill. Now we do have to be worried here because now we're at overtime. You need one team fight. So what I'd really like to see, since you have some time, this is exactly what I want to see. Slow down. Get your team together, wait until you have full 6, and then push out. The question is, what are they going to be able to push out with? Not too much for defense, especially if Farah's taken out early in the fight.
And there's really smart Farah positioning there. He knows they got to come out one of the chokes. He periodically checked window as well. Unfortunately, they did stagger out really well, and he only managed to get the Monkey. But, I mean, this should be a one fight unless BADJR's going to come out really big here with the staggers.
Now, I don't want to put everything on BADJR's shoulders there of why they lost that point. Yes, he did use his ultimate when he maybe didn't need to use it earlier when he was chasing down that Widow Mercy combo. Oh man,
no,
that is not what you want to see.
That does not feel good. That's so bad, especially on a fight.
But what I was saying there, I just got to make this point because I don't want to put everything on BADJR's shoulders. It's not like it was necessarily a bad Winston ult there. The problem is we needed that Winston ult as a get out of jail free card. If you know that Street's Face is coming up, they only have 30 seconds to a minute left. You want to not just contest point, but you can even get a few easy picks by knocking people off of the bridge. I would have liked to see a little bit more restraint there. Now, to his credit, he did expect the rest of his team, some of his damage dealers, to be able to pump out the damage. Duke was on Farah at that time, but then Duke got taken out by Toxic on Widow, and then there was nobody left to actually get any kills. So BADJR used that Winston ultimate early, could have been good for the team, but turned out we really needed to see that saved for that final push there. I think it was 0.65 meters, very close.
And another thing you could have done with that Monkey ult is you have the Farah, so you know one exit is going to be it's die or don't go through, right? So you can block off that exit with a Farah ult. Whether there's people there or not, you know nobody's going to be able to come through there to touch cart. You can do the same thing with Monkey ult, where you just shove them in the door, hold the fist. You don't need to keep jumping. You don't need to do anything. You can just continuously smack around, and nobody can come out that door. So now you're left with knowing the rest of the 4 team can watch window, and the only way to touch point is through window. Something smart like that, like a pincered attack, can set you up really, really well for success. And it was just really unfortunate.
All right, so now we're seeing the role reversal here. We do have one fairly strong push. I mean, again, both of those pushes for Team Enlightened was during overtime, so you know they were able to get in some clutch plays there, especially towards the end. Now we want to see if Team Enlightened is able to do a full hold. That's exactly what they want to see here. They don't want this cart moving at all, dumping in a lot of damage as Toxic, basically taking out the enemy team's Reinhardt shield before they even walk in. That's going to be huge because now he's able to access the backline, gets a kill on the healer.
Wow, and their shield is demolished. Their health pool's just dwindling so fast. The pick on the Lucio is so crucial when you're running the heavy tank comp. Even though you have the Moira heals, now you no longer have the speed boost to get into position. Really looking like a bad fight here. Maybe should have held on to that Moira ult, knowing that your team can't really get into position. Especially Moira with the halt. You have like your tools to sort of mitigate their positioning, which is just such a strong thing for this defense with Enlightened. Now they have the tire up. They're going to be able to rotate. They're going to be in a lot of trouble here because if this tire buys another push, then Enlightened's looking at probably getting the rest of their ults online afterwards.
And for everybody who's paying attention at home, Toxic was able to build his ultimate, his Riptire, that Junkrat ultimate, in 28 seconds. To give you a point of reference of how insane Toxic is playing right now, that is faster than a Mercy Res. He was able to build it in a quicker amount of time than the cooldown for a regular ability on one of the healers in the game. So Toxic is pumping out so much damage. Not gonna happen though. BADJR walks in and gets a hook on you. That is not what Toxic wanted to see. This is exactly what they needed to be able to get a cap on point A, and all starting in from that giant hook from BADJR onto Toxic. I don't really like what I saw from Toxic's positioning. Once you're establishing your dominance as Junkrat, you should really be using your tire on cooldown. I would have loved to have seen a very early tire in that fight, just as they're pushing. At the very least, you're going to stop their push. Even if they kill the Junkrat tire, you're buying yourself some time. But more importantly, what that does is you throw that tire in there, and the rest of your team can walk in as the enemy team is freaking out from this tire, trying to find it, trying to get out of line of sight, trying to shoot it down. They don't see the rest of your team pushing. So Toxic still sitting on the same tire that he was able to build in 28 seconds. Now we're a couple minutes into the fight. So, let's see what we have here. We might see some sort of, well, here comes the tire right now. I was hoping for the Graviton, though. The Graviton comes in from Duke. Is he able to get any more kills?
Transcendence mitigating most of that. I mean, the positioning's still hard to dictate, but the kill feed's coming in. BADJR's doing work here. Only thing is Toxic's left on the high ground. Someone's going to have to get him off this positioning, but I think the recall is called. They're going to regroup. They're going to try and contest bridge here. One more fight. That could have been trouble.
Oh my goodness, so Toxic did not know that he actually led the enemy Roadhog into his Moira. She was able to make it out. Very difficult to kill Moira if she has her shift available when you hook her in. Looks like we're going to see another fight here. I would love to see Coalescence be used very early. They're getting the flank Coalescence. Can they get any value?
That's a really strong combo there. The Orisa ult with the Coalescence. We see really good tracking by Moira here. Prioritizing the healing over the damage, but definitely trying to line up that pool-like shot where he's going right through his heal targets into the damage, making sure that he's always healing his team and at least hitting one enemy with damage. That's a really big combo with the Orisa ult too, because you're doing, I think, probably close to 90 to 100 damage per second. Along with almost 100 healing per second. So really, really hard to win a team fight when you have that big of an advantage.
And the other thing that's really incredible to think about when it comes to Moira, look at Burrito's ult percentage. He's already back to 53% on the next Coalescence. And remember, he initiated that fight with Coalescence. So Moira has another one of those ults. You can just essentially use it on cooldown like you would with the Junkrat tire. Mublu's getting pushed off of high ground. His team is there, dumping so much healing into him. Is he going to be able to be stopped here? Not before he takes out Lucio. Looks like all the kills are going to be going in the way of Enlightened, but not if Duke has anything to say about it. He is able to get the kill on the Zenyatta. This is such a crazy game. Who's going to be able to pull out? Because we have kills coming in on both sides.
We do have the defensive respawn advantage here, so trading kills for kills doesn't really mean as much as it should, but wow, what an attack there. Just amazing. It looked like the odds were against them. They had the Junkrat and the Soldier set up on high ground. That's really hard to deal with, but it looks like they were managed to split them up. Just such a good attack.
Really smart change by Duke. He was originally on the Zarya, but he did change over for this last fight onto the Genji. Looks like it was a really good decision because he's getting so much damage. That's close to a 3 or 4K. This is going to be a cap here. I don't really know that there's anything left that Enlightened can do to be able to stop this push. Payload is reaching to the end, and there you have it in a highly contested fight. BADJR comes out on top. What a switch. Zarya is incredibly good on the first point when you know where all the damage is going to be coming from. It's just a little bit harder once you get into the streets phase. You can still do it, but I love what Duke was doing there. He knew that Toxic on the enemy team was able to get so much damage in. I think that might have been the reason for the Genji swap. I don't really care about what the reason is at this point because the results speak for themselves. Duke carries BADJR onto the first win of map number 1 in this best of 3.
Yeah, that was such a strong swap, and we saw the patience there. He had Blade. They managed to force the Transcendence out from the Zen, and then as soon as it ended, we saw that target come. He dove him, and then he even switched targets quickly when he noticed that the Junkrat was sitting right on top of the Zenyatta. He can really quickly punish either with a double shift or with a lucky grenade and a shift to follow up. He can basically get the insta kill. So we saw really good positioning there, and it was just really good awareness from Duke to know who he should be targeting, when he should be swinging, and even reflected. Even though he didn't get a kill with that reflect, it did guarantee that he wouldn't be killed during his blade, and then he finished up Zen and cleaned up the fight after that. Really good awareness there. Really strong attack. I would have liked to see maybe if the C9 was prevented, that could have gone to point 3 and been a little bit closer and a little bit better. But it's still a good game, and you can't complain. C9s happen. There's not always something you can do about it.
What I was really surprised about on that one, Eichenwald's a little bit of a goofy map, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's very interesting to see how many different perspectives people come to the map with. And on that one, what we saw from BADJR, which was very smart, we saw a lot of reliance on the Moira, which was great, but then we saw a huge amount of reliance on DPS. And we saw that from Enlightened too. It was really a DPS battle. Remember, Toxic was doing so much damage as Widowmaker for half of that map, and Duke was on Pharah, later switching to the Zarya, and then, of course, what we saw at the end, switching to the Genji. This was dictated by fantastic DPS being in the right place at the right time, but I don't want to set this aside too much. There was so much healing going on in that game. It was really incredible to see the heads-up plays, a lot of communication. The comms are clear when you see that kind of, pocketing of the people on your team who are doing the most damage. So smart play by the healers, really, really sharp play by DPS on both sides. But again, it is going to be BADJR coming up with that. Now, if BADJR is able to take another victory here, that's going to be the end of this round, and Enlightened's going to be knocked out of the tournament because of that. Remember, this is a single elimination tournament, and it's a best of 3 maps. We started on Eichenwald. We'll be moving on to our next map in just a moment here, which of course is going to be Ilios, one of my personal favorites because I do like me some Zenyatta. Some Zenyatta, and then on some Lucio.
I was gonna say, if you're saying you like Zenyatta, you like Ilios, and you're not mentioning the Lucio, I was gonna be extremely disappointed there. I almost exclusively throw games by trying to carry with boops, and you either get 7 or 9, or you get 0 when you feed. But you know what? I think it's worth it because, you know what? Oh well.
Well, I tell you what, speaking of, what you want to consider for healers here, this is one of my favorite maps, certainly my favorite map on Ilios to play Zenyatta. As we know, this is traditionally a very, very strong Widow map. Now, what that means is, well, first the question is, why is it a good Widow map? It's a good Widow map because there's a lot of cover and there's a lot of great sight lines. So if you can get your Widow on top of the ruins, you can just shoot free shots down. Now, conversely, if you have a Zenyatta who's right-clicking the enemy team into oblivion, he's essentially doing, well, he's actually potentially, okay, huge asterisks here, potentially doing more damage than a Widowmaker. Right, Zenyatta's right click is 46 damage per orb. Now, if you were to get headshots with all this, again, I said potentially, you can double that. 5 orbs coming out at almost 100 damage. You're pumping out 450 to 500 damage. Now, again, all of those need to hit the enemy team's head, and it is projectile, not hit scan. All of that aside, I am a huge fan of Zenyatta here, and my heart is going to be broken because there is no Zenyatta coming out on either side.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Typically on Koth, you got to run the Lucio. You want that. You basically just need the speed boost for that first positioning, and then anytime you're re-engaging and re-attacking. So Lucio, almost essential here on Koth. It feels like if you win the first fight, maybe not as needed, but you definitely got to get there, get the positioning, which means no Zenyatta, unfortunately.
I'm just saying you could run Zenyatta Lucio. That's all I'm saying. But taking a look at what's actually being run here, we have Toxic back on that Widowmaker, putting a lot of shots downrange, doing so much damage. And the most important thing that Toxic is doing here is changing the way the enemy team is able to position themselves and when they choose to peek. That's one of the things that people don't really realize that Widow does so incredibly well. If you are a support main or you play support a lot, you understand how impactful a Widowmaker is. It's not just her getting headshots, it's her changing your play style and when you choose to go in, and that's exactly what Toxic is doing here.
And another thing that Toxic is actually doing really well, he's just hammering into the tanks when he doesn't have a shot. It actually puts a lot of pressure and strain on the healers, because like you said, they can't position themselves because they're afraid of getting shot in the head. And when you put that strain and you put that damage on the tanks, guess where they gotta go? They gotta move into those open sight lines. So one of the things you'll see that a really good Widowmaker will do is they know when they don't have the shot and they'll just pump damage into a tank. It's still what? I think about 120 damage that you're putting into a tank for just hitting them in the body. I think almost any ranked player can hit a tank in the body with Widow, but you get a lot of value just out of doing that, right? You're not doing anything else. You're just looking down the sights of the scope. So really, really strong play there.
And again, you're changing how the enemy tanks actually position themselves. Now, we did see a giant headshot coming in against Duke. Duke is going to be out of the match for at least 10 more seconds here. And I appreciate where your heart's at, Winston. I don't know that you're going to be able to get Toxic because he's getting pocketed into oblivion. It's 500 health for this Widowmaker. How many shots are going to get hit? Doesn't really matter because Mooblu's coming in on the backside, getting Swift Strike resets. 2 kills, make that 3 kills, and we've got to pause the moment it gets hype. Oh my goodness gracious. NA tournament, hello?
So what I love there is the dive was called on Widow, and I don't think any of us can say that it was a bad dive. I mean, maybe a few variables weren't perfect because I didn't really see too much DPS pressure on the Widow, but definitely both tanks very organized. They're together, they're defending each other, they're trying to get the damage down. But one problem you're seeing is in the kill feed, Genji just killed both supports. He's basically uncontested. There's no counter diving against him. It's just really, really strong, the fact that he can do that by himself. I'm sure the Tracer's helping him with those kills, but he's just in the backline, completely uncontested. Not very easy to deal with if you're playing a good support versus a good Genji. Hopefully the good Genji is going to win that battle out. And this entire time, the dive's been called on Toxic. He hasn't died. Like, they invested so many resources.
Toxic is getting pocketed so hard. I mean, obviously we saw the beat there, but Burrito Bob is doing what I like to see out of Mercy. He's being very mobile, checking up on everybody, making sure they're topped off. It was a fantastic dive that came in. I like where BADJR was coming from on that one. The problem is their dive, yes, it did arrive on time, but the enemy team, Enlightened, came in with a dive in the round that arrived on time a little bit faster. So we're going to see another team wipe coming in on the side of Enlightened. We're coming up to final fight here. We got up to 20% left. This should be a good fight. Everybody should be able to respawn in time to take one final fight. Hopefully Deep is able to, you know, rocket in, touch the point just to enable the overtime to start. And then you want to follow up with as many ults as you need. I mean, I would really love to see a Genji Blade early. The Genji Blade is going to be coming out. Oh no, I got baited. Genji Blades, I don't know, here it is. He finally found his target. Lucio going down.
I think he was a little bit
damage on the D.Va too. D.Va's going to be going down. This might be going in the way of BADJR right now.
They had all the cards in their hand. There was no Lucio ult up, and they had Genji Blade. I mean, if you have those tools and you're losing, you should really be upset with yourself. So good job. They did what they were supposed to do. Really, like we said, Duke, it seems like he's a very aware player. He gave their Widow, he gave Toxic so much respect. He didn't want to pull the blade while he still had free shots because he has been headshotted before. So holding onto that blade, making sure he gets max value. As soon as he sees the Widow, the dive comes down on Widow, she's killed, he pulls the blade immediately. That's what I like to see. That's very disciplined play.
Disciplined play, he waited until he found his target, waited until he was safe. But here's the problem that BADJR is going to have. The enemy team has a Genji Blade coming online of their own. It's going to take a little bit longer than was originally expected because Moon is going down very quickly. It's going to be a quick team wipe coming in the way of BADJR. So this is what they needed. They need to establish on point, but the next fight is going to be crucial. There's not a whole lot of ultimates coming online for either side at this moment. The closest one we have is Genji does have his blade for Team Enlightened, but there's not too much coming in. A Chronicle had to use Moira ultimate to stave off that last fight, but there's no defensive ultimates, especially if they're able to get in and kill Big Chicken very quickly. That should be the target here. I expect Lady to be coming out looking for one target, not able to get it. The beat does go off. There's going to be a lot of extra time bought here for BADJR, but are they going to be able to use it for anything?
And the regroup unfortunately took too long there. You have to wait for it. You can't come in with down 2 players, but Big Chicken took that opportunity to build his ult and then completely neglect all the value from the Genji Blade there. So really big play. They did a good job staggering, and Big Chicken built that ult as fast as he could. And that's probably what saved them the point right there.
And in a total role reversal, we're seeing BADJR on the point, 92% to cap. I don't know that anybody's going to be able to touch it. Maybe Monkey can touch it, but it's going to be very difficult to get any sort of fight here. You don't have a lot of ultimates to work with. You do have the Monkey Primal coming up, so he is going to be able to stall for some time. But this is just going to be feed after feed after feed. Yes, your Monkey's stalling, but nobody's there to make use of the time bought by your Monkey. So we're really just in a waiting game at this point for Team BADJR. Another beat coming in. This is not going well at all for Team Enlightened. This might be a first map loss on Ilios here for Team Enlightened. It looks like it finally was secured. I've got to give credit where all the credit is due. Big Chicken with the fattest beats that I think I have seen in quite some time. You know, thinking back to, we talked about this before with the DPS. We talked actually with Duke's, you know, Genji Blade, waiting until he found his target, waiting until Toxic didn't have a shot on him to be able to pop his blade. That kind of heads up play is so crucial. What's really important to see is Lucio had that same kind of timing. He didn't wait to get dove before he pop beat. He saw the fight coming in and pop beat proactively, so there was no chance of him, you know, dying mid beat, which is an absolute heartbreaker if you're Lucio.
And you said it there. The dive target should have been called on Big Chicken. I don't know. I mean, he built that ult pretty fast, so maybe they just didn't know that he had it. But if you're relying on Genji Blade to win you the game, you better know that the only defensive ult is coming out as soon as it can, or not at all if you kill him. So just the target call on the last engage on that last point is kind of maybe where the flaw was.
Pretty familiar scene here. We're seeing dive. If you played Overwatch ever, but certainly within the last several months, you're very, very used to what to see with dive. So the first fight, it was a little bit of a cluster that happened on point. Not a whole lot of sharp diving coming in from either side, but there is a huge difference in ultimates. Take a look at Nirun with 90% to ultimate, 90% of that beat drop, and then Big Chicken on the other side only has 46%. So it's going to be a huge difference coming in from those Lucio ultimates, and we're seeing pretty much the same story across all the ultimates. Very early, Lucio becoming in Toxic is trying to get some value with that beat, looking to get the Tracer Bomb as soon as possible, pop in on whoever he can, try to get that Diva out of mech first, because she is not going to be kind to your Tracer Bomb. The throw and pray method, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but now it looks like Team BADJR is coming back, able to get all the kills, so no value was gotten from that Tracer Bomb, which is absolutely fine, because Toxic's already 40% to the next bomb. But you always throw it there, right, Dancer? You should never really hold on to it. If you see something that looks like it could be good, you want to be tossing that bomb out.
Well, you know they're playing on point too. I think the cap was halfway in their favor, so, I mean, worst case scenario, they're getting out of position to avoid it, and best case scenario, you're going to pick up a kill or put tons of damage on a tank. So yeah, it's basically a cooldown. Just use it as soon as you got it. Just try not to whiff every time, I guess.
All right, BADJR using, Big Chicken using the ultimate very early there. It's going to be a problem because now Genji's able to come in. Not if he gets killed by Winston. Duke really wanted to get that kill there, and now I feel like everything is going in the opposite way. Team BADJR is not able to stay on this point. Very early Lucio beat there from Big Chicken. The problem was, yes, his whole, I think almost the entire team was able to get hit by that, but incredible play by Enlightened. They bided their time. They burned through some of the ultimate, but they just waited that extra 4 seconds. All of that Lucio beat goes away. Then you can go ahead and confirm those kills. So now we're seeing the other side of things. Now Enlightened has his beat coming online. He doesn't really need it for anything here. I mean, well, especially with that switch, Duke was on Genji, about 50% to ult. He did smartly switch. I think the Pharah is a good change here, but there's going to be no offensive ultimates coming in from Team BADJR unless they get an incredible Diva Bomb here, which I am rooting for.
Yeah, this comp switched a lot. You're running the Mercy Pharah now instead of the Lucio. We saw there was no Lucio ult, so really not a big deal switching there. You don't have the speed boost, unfortunately, but you are playing more of a sustained game. If we look at the character select on both teams, they are running dive, but they're running dive in an unconventional sense where they're using Moira. Moira just puts out tons of heals on a grouped up team. So we're running these weird hybrid of a sustained dive, and that's the win condition here, is what team can almost heal better than the other team. Whereas a typical dive, you run the Zenyatta, you get the Discord, what team can kill faster? So I like the switch to Mercy Hero actually a lot.
Now everyone investing very early on that beat. He wants to give his team a lot of time to get the kills soon. Moon is not able to get too much value, but he does get the Mercy with that Genji blade. That might be just enough value to retake this point for his team. Smart play there. If you get one of the healers in your line of sight, you better take them out. If it's a Mercy, you should be very aggressive about that. Dude getting a giant boom kill. Was not able to stay online near in. He tried to get the wall ride, but he was too far gone. Now Duke is going to be looking to use his ultimate very soon here. Taken out, not able to capitalize there. And that's going to be the end of map number 2, going in the way of Enlightened there. Now we just got a little bit of cleanup duty on point.
Oh, we got the res on the monkey. I mean, there's such a sense of desperation, but I think we can basically call this over. We got no big ults coming out. I don't see the 6K coming anytime soon, so now it's just the cleanup crew trying to finish off the last of BADJR.
And I was rooting for Duke that entire time. I think the switch to Zarya was very strong. It was very smart as well. And I want to pick up on something that you mentioned earlier. You know, we talked about this a little bit of an, you know, not your typical dive, right? Here's the problem that I have with Moira. Essentially, the only reason you really want a Moira on your team is specifically to farm your Coalescence. Coalescence is a very strong ultimate. It's a fight swinging ultimate. The problem is if you have your 2 tanks as Winston D.Va diving onto the high ground to get, you know, maybe the enemy team's Genji who's out of position, or reaching somewhere that they need to get to, taking out a Widow, let's say. Your Moira is not able to access that high ground. She has no vertical movement abilities. Now, she can throw her orb up there, but what you really want to see, you know, the way you want to enable your Moira is get 2, 3, sometimes 4 tanks in front of her, all grouped up, so she can farm that Coalescence over and over again. Now, if you're going to be running a dive here, you know, Mercy Lucio is a very strong consideration. You mentioned Zenyatta Lucio, which I'm a huge fan of. You know, playing a lot of Zen recently, I think it's always a smart decision to throw a Zenyatta in there. Do you think we're going to see them stick with the Moira here, Dancer? And if so, do you think we're going to see any change in the overall scheme or the game that they're trying to play with the Moira?
I think they're both pretty hard set, especially when you see a mirrored comp. Typically, when you see a mirrored comp, you think that you're doing something right because the enemy's doing the same thing. So you know they're not strategically outsmarting you here. Although the problem is, we were talking about the vertical limits of Moira and the win condition of the sustained fight. I don't know. I mean, BADJR's at an advantage and a disadvantage here because they're running the pharmacy. So the advantage you kind of have with pharmacy is you're gonna get damage in behind the tanks on top of the supports. You have that aerial damage that no one's really gonna be able to take care of it on the side of Enlightened. So that's a big advantage. But Mercy and Pharah aren't gonna contribute to that Moira factor of trying to build her ult quickly. So it's gonna basically encourage the Moira to use more orbs. We do see the swap off. There's no Moiras on this point. I'm actually really happy to see that because it's not really a part of the win condition here. It would be nice when you have those heavier tank comps, especially like we see on Enlightened, where they're actually gonna set up around well, but it's not always a great choice.
Yeah, very interesting coming out with Enlightened. We see Toxic is now on the Reaper. The Reaper can do a lot of work here, but if he's going to be fighting against very mobile tanks, he needs to pick his fights very carefully and go in when they don't have cooldowns. And now we see it looks like Toxic is just popping off. D.Va's out of mech, getting headshot down by Toxic. Toxic gonna get another kill. He's choosing his time so smartly. Nobody's able to have an answer to him. They did not expect to see this Reaper walking in.
Wow, really good positioning there too. Just playing inside the building where he can use the walls to his advantage. He actually has a lot of space he can work with where he won't really be punished because they have this shield that buys him this space. Plus, he's going in and out. We've already seen him take this small health pack twice, and he's going inside of this right gazebo with the pillar. So it's just so many closed, confined spaces that he can use to his advantage. And we saw the pickoffs not really on the tanks. The D.Va was the first one killed, but then right after that came the supports where he killed Lucio and Mercy right after. So just really good target selection by Toxic here as well. I really like his positioning and how he's playing these close quarter areas.
Now the question is Duke going to be able to respond to the Reaper? Pharah is traditionally a counter against Reaper. It's a counter against the entire enemy team. If you get a double boop on the tanks, it's going to be very difficult for Toxic to be able to pull this out for his team. They're down 3-6. I don't think he should invest his ultimate here. He might want to go for the 6-8. No, he smartly doesn't. He gets double booped across the well. They don't even let him die in peace. Reaper finally being put down, put it out of his misery. So now we're getting the capture time coming in for BADJR. Now we're seeing everything on the other side. This is what we've been seeing so long, or the entire time here, Dancer. There's so many fights that keep going back and forth, and it's all on the back of some really good decisions by the DPS. Even though Duke was taken out there, I think that was a smart barrage. You take out the Orisa, you're taking out the backbone of the enemy team. It's going to be very difficult for them to be able to get any sort of value here. The beat does come in. Nero drops his beat. They also have Mercy's ultimate online here. I think she might be popping it. And not needed at all. Tox is gonna just carry you to victory. There is no answer for this Reaper right now. They need to get fair. They need to do something to take out this Reaper. It is changing the entire tone of this fight. Every time Toxic walks in, he's getting so much damage on, not just onto the enemy team, but onto the entire, the tanks and everybody. Salt does get 2 kills there. Don't get too excited. That's not gonna do too much, because Enlightened has full control over the point here, and now we are seeing just 3 different kills by Team.
And Chronicle's just hiding on point. They can't find him. He bought so much time. He almost bought a full regroup. Pharmacy's coming back in. That's actually so big. He also got the boop kill on Reaper, who was buying the most space and most time on point. Wow, what a play.
Finally taken out. Both Lucios are down on both sides there, but you got to give it up for Team BADJR there. A Chronicle making a lot of smart decisions, staying alive for as long as possible, and now we're getting it almost to 99%. That is such a huge deal. I cannot stress enough how important it is to get the fight. Even if you lose this fight here as Team BADJR, you really won, and now it looks like they want to win it right now with the beat coming in,
so good,
alive, getting the 3K. That is putting the punctuation, the exclamation point on that fight. That is how you establish dominance. If you were wondering what it looks like to establish dominance on the enemy team, beat Pharah Barrage is probably a good way to do it.
Yeah, that was so big. I'm genuinely surprised. I mean, the 2 big things that happened were there was Lucio hiding on point for probably a full 15%, buys the regroup, even gets a boop kill on the disengage. I mean, if you die after that, not a big deal at all. You basically bought another team fight. And that's so big when you're keeping that point possession, especially on King of the Hill. You're keeping the point possession and you buy another fight. That completely neglects all value that your enemy team got out of their team fight. They won team fight and they didn't build any percentage on point, and then they lost the next one and they lost the round because of it. Really, really big play there. And I like the awareness. We've been speaking about the awareness on the DPS as well. Pharah comes in and she saw that Roadhog is reloading, and the rest of the DPS is Orisa, Lucio, Roadhog reloading, and a Mercy. None of that can really take care of Pharah, so she calls for the damage boost. She absolutely blows up the shield and everything behind it. What a really, really strong play to end it. Gets the quad kill, and there's nothing that could have been done about it. Enlightened just had to sort of sit there and let it happen.
Yeah, that was a fantastic fight. You know, Enlightened, they did get knocked out. That's the second map of this match. Now, it's best of 3. We don't always go to 3, especially if, you know, one team wins 2 in a row, which we did see Team BADJR do there. It does have to be said that Enlightened played fantastically well. I mean, Toxic was able to make so many smart decisions. We saw him on Widow. We saw him on Reaper. We saw at least 1 or 2 other heroes. I think back on the Eichenwald game, it was just really, really incredible. Oh, yeah, that's right. We saw, you know, Duke was on the Zarya and then over onto the game. I mean, there was just so much to enjoy about that game. So that is going to be it for our first round of the Horizon Cup tournament. Congratulations to BADJR getting the 2-0 victory over Enlightened.
And the great thing about this tournament is every game, you know, it's getting better because the teams are going to have to compete to get there. So, I mean, that was such a great first round, the round of 8. But now we're gonna face off against the two teams that won, and then finally the best out of the best out of the round of 8 with the finals. So I'm really excited. You know, these matches are only gonna get better as they go on, which is something sort of that's unique for us as casters. We've never casted tournaments before, so. I'm really excited to that aspect, especially if BADJR does win the next game. We won't be watching it. For those of you that don't know the casting order, we're actually going to rotate and watch two teams that we haven't watched yet, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to be casted. But if BADJR does win the next round, we will see them in the finals, and it'll be kind of fun to see that play of them now facing the next best team.
Yeah, we have the quick update on the bracket right now. So while we were casting on this game, there was another game that was played and is already finished. It was Team Reformed against Umbra. Reformed got the victory, a 2-0 victory over Umbra. So Reformed has confirmed to be moved into the next round. Team BADJR is also confirmed into the next round. We have 2 other games that are just finishing up now. We will update you as soon as they're ready, and should expect it to be relatively soon here. Within about 5-10 minutes, we should see our next match starting. The next match is going to be the semifinals. I'm very excited for this one. Just like you said, Dancer, you know, what we're seeing is incremental success over time. If this was the first game, I want to see how Team BADJR, if they do make it to the finals, I want to see how they perform after they've beaten their way to the finals. They're just stepping over better other teams, getting the better of those teams, and it's really hard to get the better of Enlightened. I think they were a little bit disheveled there. I think, you know, not expecting the Lucio to hold on to point that long. I mean, incredible plays on both sides, but I don't want to, you know, slight Team Enlightened there. If 1 or 2 things had changed, if there was, you know, somebody zigged instead of zagged, we certainly would see Team Enlightened in the second round.
I 100% agree with you. And like we said, one of the issues I'm sort of seeing with BADJR, and we haven't obviously casted a lot of their scrims. This is almost the first time we're seeing them. But like I said, maybe their focus fire is lacking, or their comps don't really accomplish as much as we see on the pro side. But one thing that they do have really strong is their DPS are really, really good. We saw Farah, like, I want to know the percentage of direct hits she got that last game, because it felt like every other rocket hit someone, and a lot of her kills, probably more than she should have had. Duke was getting solo kills on Farah consistently. We saw solo kills on the healers. That's so big. If you're able to do that as a Farah, like, what I don't understand is Farah's not as well equipped to get those solo kills as I think a Tracer or a Genji is. They just have kits that get solo kills and kills like that a little bit easier. But Duke is so strong on that character that he's able to do this. He's just able to hit those directs basically every other rocket, sometimes 2 in a row, and it's just undeniable. You can't heal out that damage. It's so much. It's 240 damage coming out in basically 1 or 2 seconds.
All right, so for everybody who's watching at home, we're still waiting up on those last 2 games. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break here as we get prepared for the next round of our tournament. Again, this is Horizon Overwatch, the Horizon Cup. Season 0 is going on right now. Coming up in about 5 minutes, you're going to be seeing our semifinal matches, and don't leave after that, because we are running to the finals tonight. We will see who the champion of the Horizon Cup is tonight on Horizon Overwatch. Don't miss it.